Hey guys, thanks for stopping by to watch another video here at All I See Is W, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. In today's video, I'd like to talk about the overall Bitcoin market as well as cover fundamental and technical analysis on MicroStrategy, including hot miners that I believe have the potential to make significant bullish runs in the year 2025. Now, if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate you hitting the like and subscribing for more related content. We'll be covering technical and fundamental analysis. First off, I wanted to cover the overall technicals of the price of Bitcoin. So currently we have Bitcoin hovering at 95,000. We saw a wild swing day with Bitcoin price in the morning, especially with the stock market open. We saw the price of Bitcoin hovering below 90,000. In fact, it reached to $89,000. And what happened? We saw people buying the dips there, and it started going back up over the course of the remainder of the day. And what caused the price to go up? We'll go through the updates with Bitcoin price action, but I think just with the overall market sentiment right now, a lot of the financial institutions like BlackRock has just acquired a big load of Bitcoin, similar to what MSTR is doing. But from a technical standpoint, I think that we're seeing consistent consolidation around the $95,000. And it's good to see consolidation around this range so that once we see that next leg up, it's going to kick in the year 2025. And there's analysts that are suggesting that Bitcoin can very well break through the $200,000 range. And can you imagine once that price is achieved with Bitcoin, how that will impact MicroStrategy as long as the miners that I'll be covering? Let's take a look at a visual here. We're looking at a 200-week moving average heat map, and this is a good indicator just to see the overall percent monthly increase of the 200-week moving average. Now, the key takeaway here is current state. We haven't seen any heat maps showing in orange, yellow, or like light green here, which means that we have significant potential for this still to break out. What we're looking at is we're still in the accumulation phase and we haven't got to that state where there's FOMO effect kicking in yet. So I think this is a good indicator letting us know that we haven't seen that bullish cycle reaching that all-time high for this Bitcoin bull rally. Now, also, I wanted to just cover Bitcoin treasuries. Now, what we see here, orange, would be related to the ETFs. We've heard a lot about IBIT, Vanguard's newly created ETF. That was created in 2024. In fact, their HODL count is catching up to MicroStrategy, but just looking at public companies in blue here, which is much smaller than ETFs, we look at MicroStrategy. They're the Titan. They actually have 450,000 Bitcoins with their recent purchase today. Now they're at 450,000. Marathon Digitals is right behind them as a number two global company that has close to the amount that MicroStrategy has, so about 10%. But the question is, will they get up to about 25% of what MSTR holds? We don't know, but I think that there's potential for Mara to continue buying Bitcoin, and it wouldn't be surprising for them to do that with any news release that's coming. Riot as well, we see here with their HODL count of 17,000. We also have companies like CleanSpark, Tesla that have a high HODL count here. But it's interesting to see all of these global companies just increasing their HODL count. And what does this mean? So here we're looking at an article here in that MicroStrategy's 10-week Bitcoin buying spree surpasses BlackRock's IBIT with nearly 200,000 Bitcoin added. So huge sentiment with Michael Saylor, the CEO, just acquiring more Bitcoin. But we also see financial institutions buying up Bitcoin as well. So it's not just MicroStrategy or miners. We're also seeing, BlackRock's ETF acquiring a huge amount of Bitcoin. So with the last 10 weeks, while we see Michael Saylor adding 200 Bitcoins to his portfolio, we also see BlackRock's IBIT acquiring 120%, 120,000 Bitcoin within the same time frame. So we see here just consistent buying from financial institutions as well as, MSTR, where the HODL count for MSTR within the last 10 weeks close to 200,000 Bitcoin, while IBIT close to 122,000. But that doesn't mean that the financial institutions, companies out there are going to stop buying. I think this is really a race, which shows a huge sentiment for the US strategic Bitcoin reserve. And I think that with the overall purchases in the 95,000 range, that's really going to drive up the demand for the price of Bitcoin as a commodity and really break through, getting up to that $200,000 in the year 2025. Let's take a look at a coin market cap article in that US Bitcoin Act could eclipse ETF impact, attracting institutional investments. So we've heard a lot about how Trump wants to implement Bitcoin adoption, having the US be the powerhouse, holding on to the most amount of Bitcoins out of all countries. So with this Bitcoin Act, what does that mean? That's really going to legitimize Bitcoin as the new sovereign for digital commodity. And this adoption really is going to allow for the US to bring down their debt, combat inflation, and really be a hedge to be the number one country in terms of economic power. And when it comes to economic power, that means you'll have the strongest government and military. So that's why Trump is implementing this, having US be the number one strategic Bitcoin reserve. And with the United States implementing that, that's only going to have other countries start conforming to this approach as well. So we see substantial influx institutional capital flowing into Bitcoin ETFs, which we've seen with BlackRock, IBIT there. And a lot of people are now diversifying their ETF investments from like S&P into Bitcoin. So now this is really going to cause a ripple effect. If the US leads by example, other governments may follow suit, creating a domino effect that accelerates Bitcoin's adoption worldwide. So I think this is really going to put this commodity at a higher price and really improve the credibility as well as encourage multiple institutions all around the world to really get into Bitcoin. And this will also lead to more of a stable price increase, which will attract more long-term investors. So I think all of this are key drivers for Bitcoin being a hedge against the fiat currency, potentially devaluing the fiat gold as well. So I think the US government could allocate a portion of their treasury holdings to Bitcoin, signaling it's important as a strategic asset. So we have the buy-in from multiple countries. I think all of this is really just going to make countries like Switzerland, Singapore, adopting similar strategies like what the United States has implemented in place. Let's take a look at a posting from Robert Kiyosaki in that he noted Bitcoin crashing today. Great news. I continue buying Bitcoin because Bitcoin crashing means Bitcoin on a sale. Remember, buy low and hodl. Less than 2 million more Bitcoins to be mined. So according to Satoshi, the last Bitcoin that will be mined is in about 120 years. So we have up through 2040 for the last Bitcoin to be mined. But what happened today after Bitcoin going down 89,000? It got bought up right away, and now we're hovering back up above 95,000. So it just shows that upside there. And with IBIT ETF fund acquiring a huge number of Bitcoins along with MSTR, that really puts the sentiment for just huge buying opportunities. And for retail investors, they're following what these big time whales are doing. Let's take a look at technicals here. MSTR, we do realize that MSTR at one point in 2024 ran all the way up to $550 range. It's been going down through the last couple of weeks. We saw some uptick in the beginning of the year 2025, and now it's back down Question is there potential for it to retest its prior resistance? I do believe that since we have Trump coming in on the 20th, entering the White House with the inauguration, there's huge upside MSTR. It's been consolidating over the course of weeks now, and I think that we can very much see the retest in January get back up into that 400 range. I see 2025 MSTR can potentially break through the 1,000 barrier. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up 1,200 or more, especially with Bitcoin price going above 200K. You factor in 200K per Bitcoin, multiply that by 450,000 quantity of Bitcoin. That's their market cap. MSTR is a huge undervalued play right now, even though we saw run-ups from 2023 and 2024. They've created an environment where they're the titan of just the overall Bitcoin community, holding on to so much Bitcoin. Not even IBIT has the amount that MSTR holds on to. Let's take a look at another Bitcoin miner here. So Mara is the number one Bitcoin mining company that has the most amount of Bitcoin. They have about 45,000 Bitcoins. I think current price, we even saw some price action today at, just hovering around the mid $16 today. It ended, with a slight decrease of 3% down. Current price $17. I think from a technicals analysis, we've seen this drop from like $30 back in November, late November, all the way down to 16, 17, where we are with the 50% reduction that just dropped within a matter of weeks. Because it dropped so fast, there's going to be a huge V shape I'm anticipating in this quarter alone. We're going to see that retest back up into the yellow tier here, back to the $24 before we ramp back up to test its prior resistance. But I do see Mara 2025 potentially could even get up to $100. So expect the unexpected. That's what I see here. We're looking at CleanSpark, another Bitcoin pure miner play. Why do I like CleanSpark? I like CleanSpark because of the price action that we're seeing. We saw CleanSpark beginning of 2024. They went from like $6 to $25, although 2024 was a huge underperforming year towards the later quarters. But where the current price is today, I hope you took advantage buying low because, selling high before the run up, that's going to be huge. Current price, you could have got it at like $9.80 today. I think the retest, we're going to see it achieve high $14 in January, and we're going to see that retest back up to $18, which is what we saw in early November. But the retest back to $25, what we saw in March of 2024, I could see that happening in Q1. But there's 3 to 5x potential with CleanSpark. I wouldn't be surprised if we see CleanSpark get up to $50 in the year 2025. And just with their bolstered strategy, ramping up their hash rate up to 50 exahash by the first half of this year, as well as improving their fleet efficiency, bringing down their cost to mine from 19 joules per terahash down to 17 joules per terahash. That just shows that they're one of the leading industries for hash rate, right behind Mara in terms of hash rate, and right behind leading number one most efficient miner out there, Iris Energy, Iren. So let's take a look at another Bitcoin miner here that I think has potential for huge breakthroughs as well. So we're looking at Riot Platform here. Current price today, 1177. I think that Riot is significantly undervalued. We're going to see phase one retest in the near term, get back up to its prior resistance, $15. It's been hugely oversold. RSI has been dropping. Back in November, right after the news when Trump won the election, it ramped up to $15. It's been just, consolidating down here. But I think that we're going to see that retest into phase two if and when Bitcoin breaks through that 120K. We saw that run up, back in August of last year going to $20. But I think that the sky's the limit. We saw what Riot had done, back in the prior Bitcoin cycle. At one point, it went from like $3 all the way to $80. I think we've seen those cycles happen like every 4 years. So can you imagine what how big of a bullish run that can happen if we follow that historical pattern. I wouldn't be surprised Riot achieving $50 in the year 2025. And the good news is that we have an angel investor Starboard taking a big investment in Riot Platforms. So they may expand into HPC AI, which could easily drive up the share price as well. But where Riot currently holds number two in terms of HODL count, they have close to 18,000 Bitcoins on their balance sheet using the MSTR approach and also consistently mining. But the hidden gem is that they have a facility with 1 gigawatt capacity. That's the Corsicana facility, which hasn't been fully tapped into yet. So it'll be interesting to see how Riot will use the remaining capabilities at the Corsicana facility, but I do see that 3 to 5x potential. Let's take a look at another Bitcoin miner here, and we're looking at Iren, ticker IREN. So Iren, I like Iren because what we've seen recently from a technicals analysis, early December, this hovered close to about $16. We also saw that run up back in July, $16. It went down to a low point of like $6, but we've seen gradual increase, but that sharp downward turn just recently from like $15 now to, $10. I think Iron is hugely undervalued. We saw their recent production data in December. They mined like about 522 Bitcoins. They're ramping up their hash rate overall, month over month improvements. I think they're like number one in terms of performance with improvement in increasing their hash rate. But the unique thing about Iron is they mine, each Bitcoin, it's less than like 35,000 Bitcoin price. So can you imagine once Bitcoin goes up to 200,000, how much net revenue that would bring in, net profits for every Bitcoin that's mined? Iron has the best in class fleet efficiency right now at 15 joules per terahash. So no other company out there has that type of capability. On top of that, Iren does make money from AI cloud-based service as well. So that's why I see Iren getting potentially up to the $50 range. So that's my overall assessment. Most of you are wondering, is Bitcoin commodity a buy? Is MSTR a buy? Or are the miners a buy? It really depends on your investment strategy, but I think that there's significant upside here. If you're looking more for stability, a commodity like Bitcoin, you can never go wrong from a long-term perspective. If you're looking for bigger rate of returns for the year 2025, you could definitely see that in MSTR and these miners I've shared with you. Let me know what your comments and questions are. I'd love to hear your feedback, and please make sure to like and subscribe for more related content. Thanks, guys.